Hey y'all, it's Kat, and we're back with Shuffle the Podcast. And I'm here with Kate.
That's me, Kate the Critic with a Heart of Gold, coming at you from beautiful Austin, Texas. And you guys, it's first episode of 2019. We are so happy to be back. We've missed you. Have you missed us?
I think they have. We've had some Twitter fans asking for us. Sorry, we've been MIA. Just shit got cray. So what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? You know, honestly, just managing the holidays. My partner and I, just moved in together last year. And so this was our first Christmas, juggling, going to multiple family Christmases and having places to be and tight deadlines and stuff. And so that was fucking awful. And I'm definitely going to reevaluate my life over the course of 2019 so that I'm better prepared for December 2019. But other than that, just kind of kicking back and catching up on some Netflix, honestly, something I don't get to do. And Kat, how about you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, so just like you, we had a lot of stuff going on over the holidays, although mine was a little bit more chill. My family came to me, and it was just really nice. Had a nice family day on Christmas, and then got to see a lot of movies over the holidays as well, which we can talk about. So it was just fun. And then, just reevaluating 2019, goals and all that shit.
What are some of your New Year's resolutions, if any?
I think I've steered away from resolutions. I had actually already started the whole workout regime 6 months prior, so I think I'm okay with that. Although I think my nephew kind of strained my back on Christmas, so I've been dealing with that pain, and I'm kind of avoiding the doctor, which I need to go and see somebody because it kind of hurts to get up. So workout has been put on hold. But I did go work out last week, and it felt nice knowing I wonder who the New Year's resolutioners are. I'm not one of those, finally. So that felt really good. I think just overall, it's just maybe not a word, or it's just more of a feeling I want to go for, is more just I want to be more balanced, and also just kind of take steps to reach the goals I'm kind of aiming for.
Very healthy, very put together. Yeah, I don't do concrete New Year's resolutions. I have two things that I do just to kind of take advantage of the momentum of the new year. I choose a word of the year, which, like you said, is kind of just a lifestyle infusion. And so my word for 2019 is upgrade. I want 2019 to be the year of upgrade. And so kind of how I'm interpreting that is being more mindful, with my appearance and my fashion choices, and taking the things in my life that are difficult and finding a way to streamline them, and sometimes actually upgrading, stuff in my life, getting a new piece of tech or, whatever. So that's what I'm hoping to carry through. And then I always do a 19 for 2019, which are just arbitrary goals where it's I have a yearly charitable goal, that this is how much money I want to give in charity this year. And I want to try this many new recipes. And I've always had a lot of fun doing that, because some of it's I really need a new work purse. Let's buy that this year. And then some of them are a lot bigger, more profound things. But I will let y'all know how I'm doing over the year.
I think mine is just being more mindful and chilling out a little bit more. I think, especially since I just turned 30, I think I'm more into leave the bullshit back in my 20s, and just, if some difficult stuff comes up, just deal with it. Don't get cray. Don't, just be calm, cool, and collected, and move on. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah. December's cool to have a birthday in, because then you start the new year. So it's always you get a full year. You don't get my birthday's in July, and then you have to start half a year, which kind of would suck, I think.
Yeah, I like it. I turned 25 in December. So again, kind of a milestone of I'm on the climb to 30.
Yeah. I think 25 is when I got married, or 26. I was in Australia.
Nice.
Quarter life crisis in Australia. So there was a lot of movies that came out over December, end of December. We're not going to get into all of them, but one thing before we get into our whole into our show is the fact that I did see Mary Poppins for the first time.
You're talking about the first one, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Jackie, who's been on the podcast, I don't know, we were just talking about, because she was going to do, she wrote the review that's on Shuffle Online for Mary Poppins Returns, and I was like, oh, I actually haven't seen the first one. And she's like, oh my God, I have a DVD. So we had a movie night, and it was I really liked it, actually. I thought because I'm weird with old movies. Sometimes it just turns me off. But this one was really good, and Julie Andrews was amazing. Obviously, that's old news for everyone. But the funny part was hearing Dick Van Dyke's accent. just because accents are a big thing for me. Like I've gotten better at hearing them just because, I lived in Australia. I was around a lot of different people. Like even within Australia, there's a lot of different accents, British people and everything. So it was weird hearing his accent. It was very off, but it was also endearing and it was charming. And so that was fun. Did you see the new Mary Poppins?
No, I actually didn't. And this is going to be an unpopular opinion. Calling it a boycott is too strong of a word, but I loved the first Mary Poppins. I think there's so much charm to that film. I think it's kind of one of those lightning doesn't strike twice. That was such a great film. I have a Lin-Manuel Miranda problem, which I know, like, saying that out on the internet and in the culture sphere is like, ugh. But I think he's brilliant. His work in Hamilton and just his Broadway career, he's got this incredible musical theater career. He's a brilliant creator. He's a great performer. But really my Lin-Manuel Miranda beef started with Moana when he was coming right after his Hamilton success, and Disney cast him to write the music and to perform a lot of the music. And Lin-Manuel Miranda has this really personable presence, but he's not one of the great vocalists of our generation. Like, he's got a decent voice, but not a super strong voice. And so it's frustrating to me that, like, just because he's a hot name, he's being taken into this, like, oh, well, everybody wants to hear him sing because everybody likes Hamilton. It's like, no, that's actually not it. Great songsmith, have him write everything for you, but he doesn't have to be in it. And so when I saw that he was kind of, whenever he was coming on as, like, the Bert-esque character, I was like, fucking really? It's like, really, is this what we're doing? And the more I saw of him, the less I liked it. And so it was one of those things where it's like, I want to take like a hands-off approach. I want to let this pass through and, not feel the pressure to go out and see it, but kind of absorb it on my own time whenever I'm feeling good and ready. Because I don't know, I was so turned off by that casting choice where it's like, I think it would just, like, I would be too emotionally charged to enjoy it in the theater, which, y'all can skewer me over that opinion if you want. I don't care. It's how I feel. So I think it's safe to say that we are officially in award season. Like, the field of movies is out. We're talking about them. People's top 10 lists are out. We are on the road to the Oscars, and along the way, we have stopped at the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice Awards. And for me, I get so frustrated by award shows that I'll pay attention, but I try not to allow myself to get too sucked up in it. But Kat, you have been eating up the award shows this season. So what are your thoughts on the Golden Globes? I know you were watching.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a funny story because I try to live tweet the Golden Globes and the Oscars on Shuffle Online, at Shuffle Online on Twitter. And it's funny because last year I had a breakdown, my husband would tell you. And so I had to get an antenna last year for the Golden Globes. And I swear, I think it was where we were living that I thought it was a conspiracy against me that I couldn't fucking get that channel to tweet the Golden Globes, and I was having a massive breakdown. And so then this year we just moved again, and Victor's like, you better go get the thing and you better try it out before. And so I did, and it went really well. So just a funny story. But we always use that, like, oh, there's a conspiracy against you that not to live tweet award shows. I was like, yes, it's true. I saw the Golden Globes, and it's been kind of a weird year. The Golden Globes are kind of, it's like a laughing or like an inside joke to people, just because it's like, oh, you go party, and most of the nominees are not really going to be Oscar contenders. Cough, Bohemian Rhapsody. And some of the winners are always a little shocking, like cough, The Tourist. But I like watching them. I like seeing me and my mom used to watch them when we were little, like all the award shows. So I think that's why it just has a really nice place in my heart. But as an adult, and then seeing where it's going with the Oscars and that conversation of like, who's going to host, who's not going to host, and that being more of a center point than the actual award show. For me personally, it's been kind of a bummer, like going through the award season this year, just because there's so much controversy outside of that, that it's taken away from the glam and the fun. I don't know. And then so with the Golden Globes, there was some surprises, and Bohemian Rhapsody won Best Picture, and that's controversial because the director was Bryan Singer.
Yeah, and I think it's such a difficult moment in history that we're in, because like there has always been this shadow in Hollywood. It has always been, kind of a rough industry, a lot of skeletons and a lot of closets. The industry is sort of built upon this very dubious foundation. And, but then at the same time, it has this glitz and glamour aspect to it, which that's what we're there for. That's what we want to think of. And so, it's both heartening and disheartening to see how that glitz and glamour, that glitter is coming off, and a very hard wash of the industry taking a hard look at itself. And so there's pros and cons to that. Yeah, with Bohemian Rhapsody, I didn't like the film.
Do you think Rami Malek is, because he won as well for his depiction, and I really like Rami Malek because I think he's really weird, and he doesn't really conform to what people, I think he's kind of like the outsider, and I think people are watching him like, what's going on with you? But what did you think of his performance?
Oh, very well deserved. I have Bohemian Rhapsody beef, but I don't take anything away from his performance, because he did do a really phenomenal job with an iconic character, really brought something amazing to it. And, I'm happy to see him getting accolade for that work. I think it's well deserved. The film itself, I think, rode a little too heavily on just the hype of the music. To me, there were a lot of moments in that film where it's like, I've seen this I've seen live recordings of this concert on YouTube. Why did I get a ticket for this? And that's fine, whatever. So I kind of have some Bohemian Rhapsody beef, but I also understand that so much of what people loved about that movie comes from a very honest and really phenomenal performance. So I can live with that. And then in terms of the Bryan Singer controversy, and I mean, we live in the Me Too era of Hollywood. And, like I kind of touched on before, there has been a foundation of shady stuff going on, and people being in power and, getting to kind of do whatever they want. And that time is over. And so we're in this very awkward growing phase of the industry deciding what they are going to do with that. Like, we know it doesn't fly anymore, so how do we respond? And that just kind of remains to be seen.
Yeah, and I also think it's we're in the heyday of also social media. I mean, we were in the last few years, but I feel like with award shows and then the Me Too movement, like if you get bad beef on Twitter or any social media platform, you're basically going to ride that through all award season, no matter what the press team tries to do, like with Green Book. That was also an awkward winner. And I feel bad for Mahershala Ali because he's amazing. And what's going on with him and like the family apparently didn't like it, like his film of the depiction of what his character was. And then Viggo Mortensen's character, the son of that dude, was the one that actually wrote it. And then some tweets came up about him being a little, not so like racist, so it's just kind of awkward when that happens.
And that's a risk you run, because the fact of the matter is that history is one of our richest resources for stories, and history is also where like our lowest moments and our darkest moments are. And so, it's all just kind of part of the cultural conversation. Is we don't want to avoid talking about, certain issues and certain topics, but how do we talk about them in a way that is respectful, that is loving, that is honest, and that lends itself to good filmmaking? It's a tough time to be a filmmaker, and also a moment of such opportunity. Kind of with the sweet comes the sour, and we write it out in the meantime.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. There's a few winners at the Golden Globes that I think are going to go to the Oscars. Not all of them are a sham. Which one definitely is going to be Roma, Alfonso Cuarón. So what do you feel about like streaming platforms, theatrical release being contenders for Oscars?
Oh, it's just the future of cinema and where we are at this point. I mean, you think about how the typical person consumes media. Where's the audience? The audience is at home streaming through their various services. Netflix is king among the streaming services. And of course, theatrical releases will always exist. And we'll always have that aspect of culture. There are some film events that just warrant a big screen, and that's fine. But it doesn't it's kind of like, I almost think of Netflix as like the art house theater. Every large city has their big, multiplexes where you go see the latest, Marvel monstrosity. And then there's always that handful of small art house theaters. where the stuff that you don't hear about until award season is playing, and then you get out there and see it and you really love it. And I think of Netflix in a lot of ways as kind of the love child of both of those concepts. It's a place to reach a lot of people, so of course it responds to the current culture, and it does what's popular. But it also brings the art house into your homes, where Netflix, as an independent kind of creator and distributor, gets to decide, these are the stories that we want to tell, and we're going to offer it to you. And just kind of through the beauty of promotion and just the way that Netflix functions in our lives, it does what the art house cannot, and it seduces people into stepping outside and seeing something that they otherwise wouldn't see, and being able to see it before award season. So I think I think it's foolish to dismiss something just because of the platform that it's created for. I mean, it's like different mediums of art. Is a sculpture, is Michelangelo's David better than Picasso? No, it's two totally different things.
Yeah, I mean, I think within the industry, though, I think other directors, I think like Christopher Nolan said, oh, Netflix is like basically like he would never do a film, and it's not film or whatever. And I'm just like, dude, get off your high horse. Mm-hmm. He's probably going to do one, probably do a collab sometime in the future. I was like a little snobby, but yeah, I think it's definitely the future. So just to wrap up, but like awards, and also we'll be talking more about the Oscars as it gets closer. Nominations are not out yet, so can't really tell whose race it is. There is one though. I think there's some front runners in Best Actor and Best Actress. Christian Bale for Vice, even though I really don't want to see Vice at all. And I feel like, of course, it's Christian Bale, so he always does a really good job. So, and I've seen like the little clip, and it feels like, yeah, he's probably going to win. And also, just a fun tidbit, I didn't realize I think I did realize, but I just hadn't heard him because he's such a good, convincing actor, that he had a Welsh accent. And so everyone was really surprised. Like Twitter went off on like, what? Blah, blah, blah. And I thought that was really funny because I for a moment was like, wait, what? And then also another front runner for Best Actress is Olivia Colman. She's going to be the new queen in The Crown season 3, which I'm really excited about. And she's in The Favorite, so she
killed it in The Favorite. Like, it's an understatement to say she's in The Favorite. Really knockout role for her. Like, big things coming for Olivia Colman.
And she's already like a staple in the UK. So like, it's surprising. It's new to American audiences, but not to British audience or UK audiences.
She did that one show with David Tennant. Yeah. Help me. Which one is that?
I'm seeing Broadchurch.
Broadchurch. God damn it. That's the one.
Yeah, she's amazing. And the thing that I really love about her too is like, she's really awkward. So in real life. So if you want to see really, like a really nice, genuine speech, you should go watch her Golden Globes speech, because she was really like, I don't know what to do. And she has a really expressive face. Because I watched her on the Graham Norton show, how she was talking about how she had to like, as playing the queen in the upcoming Crown, where she has to really like hone it in, like her facial expressions, because they're very you can't do that as playing the queen. So I'm excited for that, because Claire Foy was amazing. So, but I'm glad that it's in good hands. So I think they're pretty much going to be the winners for the Oscars. I'm calling it now.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely see Olivia Colman come up. I think that The Favorite is a darling. It killed it BAFTA, so I think that it's going to make the jump across the pond to make a big splash at the Oscars. And yeah, 2018 was an exceptionally good field of movies, both in kind of like in the Avengers Infinity War sort of the way, where it's like the culmination of these big pop culture icons, but also just in kind of the small space in art. We had If Beale Street Could Talk, we had Bird Box doing whatever it was doing. So just really, really interesting field of movies, really big year for deep cultural impact. People were really feeling their movies this year. And I love that.
Yeah, I think this was the year that I watched a lot of new films on Netflix. So talking about Bird Box, which was kind of surprise hit. I don't know why. Netflix is the new event television for me, which growing up as a 90s kid, I think some of the kids nowadays won't really know what that means, just because, I mean, you stream things now. You don't really go and like, oh, a movie's coming on at this time and you had to be there or you wouldn't see it. So I feel like this is kind of the modern equivalent to that sort of event television where, hey, it's dropping tonight at midnight, everyone watch it.
Oh, I would counter that.
Counter with what?
I would counter that it's when the meme comes. It's not so much that this is dropping, but it's like, oh, the memes.
Well, I'm talking about as like an audience member who loves like watching Netflix original movies. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like it's actually made me excited again, like in terms of like TV movie viewing.
Gotcha.
So like every week now I'm just like, oh, what's the new Netflix original movie? And that's made me really excited because before Netflix wasn't known for their movies. It was more the TV shows. So this is kind of a different, I think they're really doing some good stuff now that they're getting bigger names. I do have an issue with some of their movies just because right now they feel really empty in some ways. I think they're doing more for that impact. They don't have the substance besides Roma, but I think there's like Bird Box. Bird Box was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was fun, but then I need to know more. Like it was very loose, like a loose plot, and it's based on the book, which they said they didn't follow. So if it didn't have Sandra Bullock in it, I don't know if I would really have liked it.
It was fine. It was an interesting concept, and of course, I feel bad for Bird Box coming on the heels of A Quiet Place, which was one of the great standout kind of unique horrors of the year, because the novel came first. But people don't know that, and they don't care, and it's very interesting. I love horror as a genre. I love sensory horror. The idea of your sight being taken away and there being this threat that you can't see, and you can't even, like, not only can you physically not see it, but you can't look at it. You have no means of actually confronting it. And that's really interesting. I think it just wasn't fleshed out. I think it was more like, hey, let's put this together. Let's do a little bit like, let's just build it up, like, hey, Sandra Bullock's in this movie, whatever. I think that's the problem I have with some of the Netflix original movies is that they're just not fleshed out. Like they have a really good shell and they're fun. Like I'm not bored or I'm not mad at the fact that I watched it. Mm-hmm. It's just like, hey, put a little bit more substance in it. And then you guys will be like top notch. Did you see the picture of the baby monster?
What baby monster?
Oh my God. Okay. So they're in one of the original, like very, very early in the process of making the film, they were going to have a moment that showed what Sandra Bullock, like what the creature.
Oh yeah, I think I heard about that. Okay. Yeah.
And they made it like this scaly baby monster, and I'm so glad they didn't go with that because obviously she has motherhood issues. Like obviously there's some unresolved stuff that she's working through in terms of her like role of motherhood. Like we don't have to go as on the nose of like making the deadly monster like a literal baby. Like that's something out of my mind and not suitable for the American audience. The global audience. Did that release internationally?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's some areas that didn't get it, but actually, the thing that I do like about Netflix original movies is the characters don't have to be likable. Like her character at the beginning, you find out in the end why she's doing it, and you kind of know why she's doing what she's doing. She's not getting attached, but I don't know. It was cool to see her just be kind of ruthless with the kids a little bit, and it's just like, yeah, of course, this is apocalypse. You're not going to be like, hey, by the way, you gotta like keep your blindfold on because you might die. So I really enjoyed that part too, I think. And I love Sandra Bullock. She's amazing. So I'm glad she did that. Another Netflix movie that dropped that kind of had a splash in the Twitter sphere is Bandersnatch.
This was their first like major release, like for a mature audience. Choose your own adventure. Yeah.
Which is based on the book. And then I just read an article that Choose Your Own Adventure book is like suing them, which is, I think, the story of Netflix's life. But I saw it and it was okay. I think I really enjoyed the experience. I would want more of it. But then towards the end, I think it was just I was watching it like on a weekend, like morning, and I was still kind of sleepy. And then it just kept going on. And then towards the end, like, because it doesn't really end, it's just going to keep looping. And so I was just like, okay, like this isn't interesting enough to keep going. But I like the concept. So I hope they do more of it.
Well, it's art, because an interactive experience, and like you talked about, like a loop and a loop, there is a traditional expectation to the film format in that it's an escapist experience that you buy into for a specific period of time. There's a narrative that plays out before you. And to subvert that is a really interesting idea. And to say, hey, we're going to sit down and you're going to make choices in the movie and we're not going to know what's going to happen. Like, it's not like we're going to lay it out for you. You're not going to know what's going to happen and it could just go on. Really interesting idea. I don't know, like, maybe I'm old school and not hip to what the kids are into, but for me that's more of like an experimental project and not so much film, and I can appreciate it for the aspects of filmmaking and kind of that create your own narrative. Like, that's an interesting concept, but not something that I hope becomes a defining and prevalent thing in the modern filmscape.
I think it's going to have its place, and I think they just need to choose the right stories. I think this one was maybe too simple in some ways, and it didn't, like, the choices they were presenting me with weren't really, like, I felt like it was already guided. So I think that was one of the issues I had with it. I enjoy those stories. I love immersive experiences. In terms of, like, sometimes at festivals they'll have immersive experiences leading up to a film, so you get to go and explore and try out the movie world. So I really enjoy that. It just makes you a little bit more connected, but it has to be the right thing. Sometimes you can feel when it's forced, just like when they use 3D in a movie that it shouldn't be 3D. Mm-hmm. So I think they just need to be careful. I hope they don't release one every month or something. As far as movies in the mainstream, one that's coming out is Glass. So that's the follow-up to, that's the third film in the trilogy of M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable was the first one, and then Split, and then now he's tying it up with Glass.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to Glass, and it's kind of coming on like a bittersweet note because early reviews have come out for Glass and people aren't super stoked on it, and I actually, I really liked Split. I liked Split better than Unbreakable. I thought that Split was doing something really interesting. And so kind of getting to return to that character and some of those ideas, I was pretty stoked on that for Glass. A lot of the reviews haven't been too incredibly kind, and I understand that because we are so oversaturated as a market with the kind of comic book superhero. Like, it's very tired, and unfortunately for M. Night Shyamalan, I'm white. I'm going to mispronounce stuff.
I don't even know how to pronounce it. Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan. That's a King of the Hill reference for y'all real meta fans. God. Someone correct us on that. Someone correct us. We won't.
We mean no offense.
We mean no harm.
We just can't talk.
We just can't do it. But anyway, the grander point is that with more successful superhero films and franchises, there's been consistent films. There's been a film coming out every year.
I thought you were going to say with more consistent comes more responsibility or something.
With more consistency comes more responsibility. That is true, though. Because there's a formulaic establishment unveiling of the mythos. Whereas with these films, you've got very long periods of time. Like, there was a huge divide of time between Unbreakable and Split. And whenever I was watching Split a couple of years ago and I saw the Unbreakable reference in the post-credit scene, it was like, oh, like, wow, connection. And I didn't realize that, like, oh, trilogy. It just felt more like nod. And then with Glass coming so close after Split, it's kind of like, well, I'm gonna see it. I'm looking forward to it. There's characters that I'm excited to see again. I'm curious to see how this all plays out. But
well, you know what? I'll give it to him. M. Night was one of my favorite. I just avoid the last name. He was one of my favorite filmmakers. Growing up, I used to watch a lot of his films with my mom. Like, Signs is one of my favorite films.
That's why I'm scared of aliens, is that movie.
Yeah, and then I don't know if I've already mentioned this, but one of my favorite quotes is, everyone needs to eat some fruit or something. It's like my favorite quote. It's like when Mel Gibson's at the table and everyone's like going crazy because of the aliens. So me and my mom used to say that all the time. I mean, some of the other films, they didn't pay off. Like, they weren't crazy, but I thought he was doing some fun, original stuff. Not everything has to be, like, oh, this is like mind-blowing. Like, he's kind of like an indie filmmaker at heart, which I appreciate, which I think to his detriment, The Sixth Sense was just like a mind fuck to everyone. So basically everything after that, if it doesn't live up to it, everyone thinks, he's lost it. And that was his first film. But I did see the critics kind of go after Glass. But I saw that the users are giving it more of a favorable review. So I feel like,
well, there's the axis of film critique, which is where I try to live, is that, there's film as art. And then there's film as entertainment. And like a film can be art and bore you to death.
Exactly.
And there will be stuff that's undeniably good about it, like, oh, so beautiful, so innovative. And then there are movies that are damn entertaining, like coming up this year, 47 Meters Down, that shark movie from a couple of years ago, is getting a sequel. That was not art, but it was damn entertaining, and I will be there for the sequel come summer.
Yeah, like one of my favorite movies that I watched in December was Aquaman, and I want to see it again because it was just so much fun. And I love Jason Momoa, and yeah, I thought they did a really good job of just making it fun. And I realized that James Wan is one of my favorite directors of this generation. So he can do no harm in my eyes. Mm-hmm. So that's coming out. I think that we're pretty much... some of the movies that are coming out are later, so we'll be talking about those in our upcoming podcasts. So as far as TV goes, I know you don't watch a lot of TV, but you have watched some on Netflix, as you know, we live in Netflix world. I've been watching a lot of PBS lately. And fun fact, if you donate to your local station, you can make a donation, and they kind of have like where you can do you can get a subscription, so you can get access to the shows that they have. So I donate like a few bucks a month, and you get access to it, which is nice. So one of the shows that I love, because I'm a big time period piece, is like movies, TV. I love anything that's from, especially if it's with a royal aspect to it. So like I said, I love The Crown, which is Elizabeth II, who's the queen now. And so her great grandmother is Victoria. And so PBS has made a show, and now it's in season 3. And so I just watched the premiere. It was this past weekend, and it's fun. If you really like timepieces, if you like royal time period shows, I definitely recommend it. It's from Masterpiece Theater, so it's definitely fun. And there was a little bit of controversy because last year the first 2 seasons, they've released it to BBC in the UK first, and then it comes to America. And this one, they released it in America first and not to BBC. So the audiences on Twitter were like, "What the fuck?" So I guess it's popular, because if they made that choice, then a lot of people are watching it here, which is cool.
Yeah, I love Masterpiece Theater. That takes me back, because it was like it was actually my dad that like turned me on to Downton Abbey all those years ago. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of a family thing. Yeah,
if you love Downton Abbey, you should watch this one. It'll hold you through to The Crown, if you love The Crown, and then it'll hold you off to the Downton Abbey movie that's coming this year.
Yeah, I haven't sat down for PBS in forever, but now my heart is warmed, and I think I'm going to return back to my public broadcasting station.
They have some good shows.
They really do. Like, it's good stuff. I came in on the hype train for the final season of A Series of Unfortunate Events. I was a huge Series of Unfortunate Events fangirl back in the day, like back in my YA days. I was at like midnight book releases and whatnot. The Jim Carrey movie's okay.
I love that one.
You do?
I think that's why I can't watch the series. I haven't watched it. And I also think I don't really like Neil Patrick Harris as the character, but I'll give it a shot eventually, just not right now. I think it's too hyped right now for me. Like there's shows that are like that, and I really enjoyed the first movie. I mean, I really enjoyed the movie with Jim Carrey. So
what I liked about this one, because I've been following, like you were talking about event television earlier, I get up for A Series of Unfortunate Events. I loved that. We binged it in an entire day, the 3rd season. And what I really appreciated about it is if you've read the books and you're kind of familiar with Lemony Snicket and his writing, the guy behind Lemony Snicket's pen name has actually written a really dirty adult book, which I highly recommend. It's called All the Dirty Parts. Anyways, I digress. Good book. Better books would be The Series of Unfortunate Events. And what I appreciate about the Netflix series is that it really taps into the spirit of the books. There's something very wry about it and very wordy and very witty, and the way that it's written, the way that it's presented, I really, really love that. I think that, I disagree with you in that I think Neil Patrick Harris is like the definitive Count Olaf. Like what he's done for that role is incredible. And the final season, we're wrapping up the story and mysteries are being unfolded. And I have to say, I highly recommend it to everybody, but the episode, like the series kind of ended on a weak note. And I understand where it was going. I understand that it has to tie like a nice bow on everything, but also leave like just a hint of what if something else happened. The book was a lot more kind of neatly packaged, and they were sticking with that, but then they kind of had like the trailing stuff, and I was like, just let it be tight. Like, let it be tight. Don't try to find a way to make another one if you want to. Like, don't worry about it. But really, really good. Although, what I think has been, like, rocking the Netflix sphere is Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. Have you watched it?
Yeah, so I've watched, I think, like, the first 3 episodes. And I think I had vaguely heard about her book like a few years ago, but I just never got into it because, tidying up was not a part of my life. But so the first thoughts I had is, I don't know, the first episode of a series is always a little awkward. I mean, reality show is a little bit awkward. But I thought they did a really good job. I mean, it's interesting how they kind of go through the episodes, like with her speaking, like, they'll show the family that she's going with and helping out, and she's there for a little while, then they do their own thing, but then they'll like cut to the segment of like her method. I don't know if it was the best way they presented it, but it's okay. Like, I'll buy it. I mean, maybe there'll be a season 2. But yeah, people are going crazy. I heard that there's like the donation stores like Goodwill is getting massive donations from people because I guess she's really inspired them to like get rid of all their junk. Or on the other hand, that you were telling me about is people are getting anxiety and feeling bad or watching it. So what were your thoughts watching it?
Well, so I'm a, what is the term? Acolyte, a disciple of Marie Kondo. I had read her book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, and there's another great podcast called By the Book that deep dives into self-help books, and they did a great episode breaking down the life-changing magic of tidying up. And one thing, when I saw that Marie Kondo was getting a show, I was thinking, oh shit, here we go, because her book is incredibly extreme. Like, she is the type of person who believes that, like, like a giant KitchenAid stand mixer, some big heavy appliance, she thinks that should go in a drawer. Like, she doesn't believe in stuff on counters, and it's a very sterile, minimalist way of living, which I have thoughts on kind of the trend of minimalism. So her book is just as infamous as it is popular, because there are people that are just like, nobody can live this way. And like one of the big kind of sources of heat that I've seen coming for Marie Kondo is she I think that she said that her ideal number of books in a household was like no more than 30, where it's like, like I read 30 books like in 6 months. Like there's no way that I could ever minimize that. And that's sort of it's an interesting approach because like people will watch shows like Hoarders and have very much the same reaction that they do Tidying Up with Marie Kondo, where either they're like, oh, look at it and we're going to fix it. Like, oh, I love the project, it's crazy. Or they have great anxiety. And the same is very much true for Tidying Up with Marie Kondo, where, like for me, I consume that show. I'm watching on the TV, I got my glass of wine, I'm scrolling through the Container Store website thinking about all the baskets I can put my shit in, and that is Zen happiness to me. I know so many people where seeing somebody like going through other people's stuff at such an intimate level and people getting rid of so much stuff and kind of the standard of cleanliness that she's trying to implement there, it can be very stressful. Because I was talking with a friend of mine not too long ago, who's a new mom and a single mom. And she's like, my house is not. Like, it's not going to look like that. I don't have the time or the space to lay all my clothes out on the floor. Like, I've got a newborn that is growing quickly. Like, how the heck? I cannot Marie Kondo my life. And it's definitely really interesting. One of the big hot issues that I've thought was super cool to talk about is gender roles on the show. That is something that has come up quite a lot. Have you heard any of that discussion?
I have, and for me, it doesn't bode well just because I'm Okay, I'll talk about what I read, and I just found it funny because it's not, my situation is completely different, so I can't really relate like on a gender level. I read some criticism about how the people on the show, I guess like the husband wife aspect or partner aspect, how the man is always expecting the woman to be like, well, you need to fix it, and the wife is always having, oh yeah, I just don't know how to fix it, I don't know how to, like, it's all on her to make it better. And so they were kind of saying, oh, Marie Kondo is not going to help you because you guys got issues besides that, because it needs to be equal and blah, blah. So for me, in my household, my husband's actually the one that's the tidiest and the cleanest. His mom would make him clean every Saturday. So he has it grilled in him that, hey, we need to clean. And for me, I didn't grow up like that. Mine was, I hardly did any chores. I think my mom took care of it, which I need to talk to her about that because it's amazing. She had 4 kids and never asked us to do anything. Thanks, Mom. But also it sucks now because when I became a wife, it's like, hey.
Thank you that you crippled me, Mom.
Yeah, it's like 20 years of, or 18 years of embedded, like, oh, it just, the bathroom cleans itself. It does not. So for me, it's always weird, and those like gender roles don't apply to me in our situation, because also, like, yeah, we both have full-time jobs, so I can't pull that card. You know, like, we're both are supposed to do the dishes, load them. And he comes from a place where it's like, hey, if you literally just take 20 minutes to fold the clothes, you're done. Or if you take an hour to clean everything, like, I don't know, vacuum or clean the bathroom or whatever, then you're done for the day and you're good. And I would always fight him against, like, no, it's going to take forever, and I hate doing this. And honestly, it's true. Like, as much as I, like, he's not going to listen to this. So, people use excuses like that. Like, I can't speak to having a kid though, because I think that's completely different.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as like not having the time, even having a full-time job, and then I also have a side hustle, and I have other, like, you have to pay attention to your partner as well. There is time, because when I've actually cleaned and organized and threw out stuff, it literally only took a few hours. I think a lot of people do have, maybe their relationship is like, because I have wife and husband, right? But like, my wife roles don't equal to, like, I think what the general population is. Mm-hmm. So I definitely feel like there are couples out there that the husband thinks that the wife needs to do like certain level of things. I can't really speak to that, because in my household, it's not like that.
There is a cultural microcosm where, you know, we do have this, like, you know, actually one of my New Year's resolutions has been reading more nonfiction. Because I was really big into fiction last year, and I wanted to get back to like some of my thesis materials and just expand my cranium. And, you know, something that I find so interesting about Tidying Up with Marie Kondo is, I think it's definitely a show that is aimed at women. And some of the kind of gender role discussion in the show and some of the criticisms that people have, it's interesting that, like, oh, this is kind of packaged for women, but there have also been like a lot of men, and there's a lot of people that I've spoken with where Marie Kondo has like encouraged their husband to go clean out his closet. And I think it's a really fascinating moment, because of course in 2017, Gemma Hartley came out with her, you know, we're not nags, you know, we're just tired of the emotional labor. I think that was in Harper's Bazaar that article came out, and I'm reading her book now, and
yeah, see, those don't apply to me at all, because I'm on the opposite end. So I can't talk about like, oh, I'm the wife and I have all these emotional labors. Yeah, I think Victor would talk about how he has the emotional labor, because he's the one having to nag me and be like, hey, you didn't clean this week, or it's been a few weeks and I have to clean the last 3 times. So for me, I'm more on the opposite end. I wish I could talk about it, but I mean, I'm not there yet.
It's an interesting discussion, just how these are things that, well, there's just a lot going on. You know, it's more than just the gender discussion. There's a really great finance writer named Chelsea Fagan, and one of her big things that she rails against in all of her discussion is the very concept of suburbia, and how for a lot of people the American dream is living in a house that's 3 times the space they actually need, so they can fit more stuff into it, and that we have this kind of idea of American success as accumulating things. And that's something that I think is so refreshing about looking at, you know, a Japanese organization specialist coming into American households. And a lot of these households are these big suburban homes, older people, and we, you know, or young families that have just made that move, you know, out into suburban life. And it's really fascinating to see the way that we attach to things. And like there was one episode of the show where it was a woman whose husband had died and she had not gotten rid of his things. You're like, what do you do with that? Because of course there's going to be a sentimental connection. Of course you don't throw everything away, but do you hold on to every pair of jeans that your deceased partner once owned? Like, how do you reconcile that? And I think that's part of what makes Marie Kondo a very positive experience, is that within her method, you know, you can argue it's extreme, you can argue that it's crazy minimalist, but she does have a very positive, honoring, and methodic way of dealing with things. And she has a category for sentimental items. Like, she recognizes that we're attached to things. And even though she wants to encourage us to explore that connection and make sure that we're in it, kind of in the relationship for the right reasons, you know, there's a place to honor that relationship. And to me, it's very soothing. To some people, it's very stressful.
Well, I think what I did get from the episodes I saw that I really enjoyed and I might do is just, it was more calming. I think, like when she's, first, what is it, like when she greets the house, and I was just, and how people kind of like, we take it for granted that we even have like a roof over our heads. And so I think that was really nice to be like, even if your living space is not where you need it to be, or you just moved and you used to have like all these boxes to unpack, like just be thankful for like the space that you actually have. And so I really enjoyed that. Like I want to try that because I think that's also a form of meditation, which I think people need to do a lot more. Like I did that. I did that, and I want to get back to that this year because it's really hard to sit still for like 2 minutes is really hard. Mm-hmm. And I think people are always go, go, go here. And so I think that also just makes you calm and be like, it's not the end of the world. Let's just kind of go through this. And then I also like where she like thanks the items for what they did. So yes. I think I want to do that when I'm throwing out stuff because I get attached to things. Mm-hmm. I've been better just because of like I've had to get rid of stuff because it wasn't working. But I had really like attachment issues in the beginning, like a few years ago. And also I like that, like in the first episode, there was things that were hidden away, like the pictures of like their wedding DVD. And it's like, when have you seen this? Like that's supposed to bring you joy, or all their pictures and they weren't hanging out there. So I think also it's like, don't put that stuff away. So I have some things that I definitely want to bring out as well to make sure like it's in my living space to, if I have a hard day or whatever, you get to look at those things and it makes you feel good. And also like she wasn't extreme in the show where she was like, hey, you guys have a lot of shit. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, she actually was like, hey, if it brings you joy, keep it. If not, like she wasn't saying like, you should only have 10 shirts. You should only have 5 things. So I think that was also very helpful. So if people are watching it, maybe it'll help them like, just start with like a first round.
Very primed for the New Year's resolution season. That was a great move on Netflix's part to like, hey, let's release this aspirational purge all your shit show right at the new year when people are doing things to better themselves.
Yeah, I think Americans have a really hard time. Like we want a lot of stuff. For me, I mean, going to Australia and living off a backpack for a year and a half has helped me in terms of like materialism, but I was right there where I wanted everything and I kept everything. So it's hard. It's hard being an American here because you just want a lot of shit. True Detective season 3 just came out. I didn't get to finish the episode because Victor's out of town and it's about murder and I was scared to watch it all. So I'll probably write some recaps and we'll talk about that in the next episode because scaredy cat, guys. But the way that I think they got people to view and like lead into True Detective season 3 is they announced that they were going to be telling everyone, I mean, Game of Thrones release date was going to pop up right before True Detective season 3. Mm-hmm. We knew it was going to be in April, but we didn't know an exact date. So April 14th, y'all, it's going to happen. Woo! Final season, 6 episodes. I'm so excited. I think I'm going to do a rewatch. So I might do a rewatch on Shuffle Online. So if you guys want to join, just be watching out for that.
All right, so I think that's a wrap on episode 1 of 2019. You guys, it is so good to be back. We have missed you so much. Like, holiday breaks are great, but we're both raring to go. We're ready to get back into the movies, back into the TV. The Shuffle Online team is chomping at the bit and getting out there already. So, of course, we're going to be telling you all about the great stuff we've got coming up this year, all of the stuff that's on your mind and on ours as well. And thank you guys so much for coming into 2019 with us. And make sure to tweet us your Marie Kondo closet inspiration or whatever. I want to see it.
And where would they tweet us at?
Well, Kat, they would tweet... Well, Kat, they would tweet us at Shuffle the Pod or at Shuffle Online. Same goes for Instagram.
Well, awesome. Shuffle out. I think this is fine.
Yes.